Hello people. So continuing on from my previous videos on this series, and this is all about Pluto entering the gate 41, I'm going to talk about something I call the four horsemen analogy, and this is the idea that we're in a kind of judgment day. If you think about it, if judgment day were to happen, what would be the benefit of the angels and such advertising all this to us? I'm not saying this as a real thing. Like, I'm not truly making the case that this is what the Bible was talking about. I just think it's interesting. So say you were a group of angels and there came a time where a population has to be judged. You have to figure out who are the good people that can go and live with all the other good people, and who are the people that have loads of anger and stuff and loads of messed up behaviours that should bar them from going to the good place as such. And in my previous two videos I talked about the theory of the gates 61, 60 and 41 here, how those transits and Pluto going through those hexagrams might be doing a good explanation of our life since lockdown. And I'm going to continue that on here, but not from a personal perspective, from a potentially global perspective. Another small point here that I make in every video of this series, I separate these videos into high, medium and low. And so higher is grand plan sort of stuff, medium is things that relate to real people, and low is personal experience. And so I've tagged this one as medium. And the point of this video is to describe these four different areas as though we were experiencing a kind of judgment day. Like, what would that look like? So the first one I'm going to talk about is politics and economics. And when I say politics and economics, I really mean economics. Since the lockdown, something interesting has happened in the quote-unquote customer service industry, and that is that customer service is really, really, really bad. The reason being for that is before we had the lockdown, before all these companies were ordered by the government to pay attention to the COVID things, the company leadership didn't have another priority. So they're sitting around thinking, how do we improve profit? And they think, or just how do we do things in general in relation to the bottom line? And then they think, oh, well, we'll really push this customer service stuff, so hopefully we'll retain customers and such. But then the lockdown came along and everybody was told, your priority is to do this COVID stuff. The government is going to make sure the only way you profit is if you do all these lockdown procedures. And after that point, customer service just died. The reason it just died is that in lockdown, companies had to, well, I'm putting forward two reasons. One of them is that companies had to go down to their bare minimum of staff and such, and they realised that they could do without. And they also realised that, say, if you have a situation and 4 staff members is what will have the best customer service, but 3 staff members you can kind of get away with, they started to choose 3 staff members rather than 4. And the second reason is that COVID just absolutely destroyed the economy. Loads of businesses went under because they couldn't compete, they were forcibly shut down, whatever it happened to be. There were less jobs, so a lot of cuts were going to happen because they needed to make sure the shareholders were still getting money as such. And so that's one way where this facade of customer service, this false intention, was destroyed by the gate 61 and then by the gate 60. Then you had dating. The dating issues we are now seeing, like I'm seeing it come up a lot on YouTube, things like women throwing these dating events and no one showing up and all that kind of thing, was probably for 2 reasons. Firstly, I just went through the economic one. A lot more people than is ideal are unemployed and such like that. But also, a lot of guys just sitting around alone went on YouTube, and this sort of manosphere kind of red pill thing kind of blew up. No one has any money. The totalitarian medical treatments are throwing off people's health and throwing off fertility. The to and fro arguments on the totalitarian medical treatments might even cause additional issues, which were potentially worse than the politics on their own. And that one has stopped. The friends and family I went into in the last video, and basically that's just the totalitarian medical treatments. The 2 and 4 people have really separated friends and family a lot, and various other things to do with that gate 6C limitation. And then you have the church. Now, what is the church ideally? Well, if the church follows Jesus Christ, who was crucified because he went against the government in a sense, then are the church following that ideal? You know, they fully supported lockdown. I think the Pope, so that would be the Catholic Church, was actually firing people that didn't support lockdown. They supported all the kids being locked at home with parents, being killed. They supported all the horrible things, the regular medical treatment stopping. You know, the church, what is the point of them at this point? There's another element to the politics and economics that I didn't mention, which is things like all this DEI hiring and stuff. I think recently a New Zealand Navy ship that was doing a survey sunk because DEI hire screwed everything up. You got a lot of problems in places like Boeing, where they're hiring a lot of DEIs and then things aren't getting done. You had that tanker in America where the CEO was like, he doesn't find 50-year-old white guys inspiring, and so he fired the 50-year-old white guys, and then the boat that he was on sank. It was a submarine, sank. Everyone died on it because the skill they needed was one that they'd fired the 50-year-old white guy would have. These are all Judgment Day kind of things, I think. These are all things where people are forced to look inside of themselves to a great extent. If your friends and family fall apart, then a lot of the things that were hidden within people that were brought out by the totalitarian medical treatments were brought out by loyalty to the government. These are Judgment Day kinds of things. This is when circumstance has brought out the deep inner values of people and it's been made manifest. Can't be just hidden under shallow friendships. You can see all this left-wing kind of craziness messing up various industries. Like, you got the video game industry is completely collapsing because they've just filled it with woke mental cases. I think Ubisoft is one that put loads of money into a game and now won't be able to show it because it's got so much woke stuff in it that nobody will tolerate it. Some of the things that came up in the red pill stuff affects the church. So men are leaving the church, women are not, and the reason is potentially because a lot of women are doing loads of crazy stuff in their 20s to 20s and then accepting Jesus and then becoming a authority in the church, and guys just don't want to take authority from somebody who was a whore for 10 years of their lives and all of a sudden feels that she can tell other people how to behave and that the church supports that. So yeah, I think that's the end of my case. It wasn't a massive important thing, but I think this pattern follows on from the 61, 60 and 41 pattern that I explained in the last 2 videos. Thank you for listening.